70 to 90% of agents are off patrol. They're changing diapers, making baby porn, making hospital rushes, doing the processing. When you take 70, 90% of agents off the line, that's when the fentanyl comes across that killed 112,000 Americans. That's when the no-inspected terrorists come across. That's when the sex trafficking of women and children is at historic levels.
We have as my guest in this hour Tom Holman, who was the acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Trump administration. He's currently visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Thrilled to have him. Tom Holman, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Where do we begin? I mean, I have to ignore what I hear on the immigration stuff because it gets me so angry, because it is so sick at what is happening. What is your sense of what is possible? President Trump has said that if he is reelected, and by God's grace he will be, he would deal with this by deporting a lot of people. He seems to understand the severity of it in very, very starkest contrast to the current pseudo administration, whom I won't even mention on the air today because it sickens me. So what is your sense of what is possible and of the situation right now?
Well, you said you're angry. I tell you right now, I wake up every day pissed off at what happened, because we handed, under the Trump administration, we had illegal immigration was down to a 45-year low. Illegal immigration was decreased by 83 to 90%, depending on what time frame you're looking at. Then this administration came in and intentionally unsecured the border. So I wake up every day upset at what they've done. And I talk to the president all the time. Matter of fact, I talked to the president about 20 minutes ago, President Trump, when we're talking about this. So what can we do when Trump gets back in office? I'm certainly going to go back. And one of the things the president talked about was having a large deportation operation. I actually did an interview a couple of days ago, and of course it was a hit piece, but say, well, how cruel is that? How inhumane is that? That's a threatening. You guys are going to build concentration camps. The left just goes crazy. Bottom line is, an historic illegal immigration crisis on the southern border where millions of people are coming across. If you look over data over the last 10 years, which I do, like I said, nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum at the southern border will receive an order of removal because they'll lose their case if they even show up in court. And because they simply don't qualify under asylum rules. So 9 out of 10 get order removal. So what I'm telling people, they say, well, this threat of a historic deportation operation, I said, well, look, that's what the law requires. If we give these people due process at great taxpayer expense, they demand to see a judge. Okay, they can see a judge. But at the end of that due process, if the judge says, no, you must be deported from the United States, if that order isn't carried out, then what's the sense?
Well, listen, I mean, let's get to the bottom of this. This seems clear. Most Americans, whether they support Trump or whether they think the Republicans are, most Americans know that what is happening is that people are scamming our justice system. Judges and politicians are not enforcing our laws. So this breakdown is on our side. I cannot blame poor people from other countries to want to come to America. People all over the world want to come to America. You cannot blame these people, but you can blame American politicians who look the other way while people are swarming across our border. It's incredibly bizarre. And I guess to me it is just profoundly cynical and sick. I can't help looking at the situation, and most Americans, I think, know this. They know that the Democratic Party is doing this on purpose. Is there any other way to see it, I guess, is my question.
No, you're exactly right. I've said from day one, this is by design. This isn't incompetence. This isn't mismanagement. This is by design. Joe Biden ran on open borders, right? He says he's going to do a moratorium on deportations. He's going to award amnesty in DACA. He's going to shut down ICE detention. He's going to give illegal aliens free health care. When you make those types of promises to the entire world, they're going to come. And the problem is the most vulnerable people in the world are going to take their chance to come to the United States because they know they're going to be turn themselves over to Border Patrol, be released within 24 hours, given a plane ticket to the city of their choice at taxpayer expense, be given work authorization while their case pends for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Of course they're going to come. But here's the problem. I don't care what anybody's opinion is on illegal immigration. But when you cause a crisis this big that overwhelms the Border Patrol, where today 70 to 90% of agents are off patrol. They're changing diapers, making baby porn, making hospital runs, doing the processing. When you take 70, 90% of agents off the line, that's when the fentanyl comes across that killed 112,000 Americans. That's when the no-inspected terrorists can cross. That's when the sex trafficking of women and children is at historic levels. Creating gaps in our system on the southern border is what's driving the overdose deaths, the no-inspected terrorists coming across, the sex trafficking of women and children. It's the fentanyl, the Mexican cocaine. This is a downside of an open border, not just a massive illegal immigration. Overwhelming Border Patrol causes a significant national security threat, and I've said this for 2 years. What's happening on our southern border right now is the biggest national security failure since 9/11, because the Border Patrol's arrested people from 171 different countries. Some of these countries are sponsors of terror. Last year alone, they arrested over 300 people on terrorist watch lists on the southern border. We got 1.7 million known gotaways. If you don't think a single one of that 1.7 million gotaways didn't come from a country sponsoring terror, then you're an idiot. This is the biggest national security failure this country has seen.
Okay, but again, so the conclusion, I mean, this is the reason that I believe by God's grace, Trump will win the next election. I think your average American looks at this and says, there is something, I can't think of a better word. There is something evil at play. This is not difference of opinion. There is something evil at play. What is going to happen as a result of these people coming in? Some of these people we know are evil actors. They're going to murder Americans. Some of them are, pro-Hamas people who would love to murder as many Jews as they can murder. That is who Joe Biden and his administration are letting into this country. There's going to be blood on his hands. There's already blood on his hands, allowing the fentanyl to come in, allowing vicious gangs. I mean, there is no way for me to comprehend that this is anything other than evil and an intentional subversion of the United States of America, of our laws. And I think that, in our lifetimes, we just never dreamt that a U.S. president would allow anything like this to happen. When I think back to Jimmy Carter, we say, oh, he was weak, he did this, he did that. Jimmy Carter is a saint. He's Ronald Reagan compared to Joe Biden. We've simply never seen anything like this. And you're going to need somebody like Donald Trump to deal with it, because it is just wicked. I got to ask you specifically about Mexico. Didn't we have a policy under Trump where Mexico would hold these people? Now we just have them flooding across the border. Did Biden end that as soon as he got into office?
Yeah, you're exactly right. That was called the Remain in Mexico program, or the Migrant Protection Protocol is what the official name of it. Well, yeah, people want to claim asylum. Under the Trump administration, it's okay, you can claim asylum, but rather than catch you and release you and you never show up for court, or catch you, release you, you show up in court, you get order removed, you don't leave, you become a fugitive. Trump, he was out of the box thinking. He said, okay, well, you're going to wait in Mexico for your hearing. That way, if you lose your case, which 9 out of 10 will, we don't have to hunt you down and find you and remove you. You're not here. So it was a game changer. And when we put the Remain in Mexico program in play, it took about 60 to 70 days. And once people realized, okay, I'm not going to be caught and released into the United States, I got to wait in Mexico, they stopped coming. They stopped coming because they knew if they were really escaping fear, because first I got to say this, when you claim asylum, what does that mean? The legal definition is that you're escaping fear and persecution from your home government because of your race, religion, and political affiliation. So if they're really escaping fear and persecution and death, they're going to wait in Mexico because they're escaping fear and persecution, supposedly. But when they realized they weren't going to be released into the United States to never show up in court, they stopped coming. It was a game changer. The illegal immigration went to all-time, actually, 45-year low.
We are living in a war on America. We have internal, external forces waging war against us, and a lot of people seemingly unable to get that and acting as though, well, we've got years to deal with this. And the fact of the matter is we simply don't. So what is your sense of the future if Trump were to get back in, which, as I say, if he doesn't, I think it's game over for the United States of America. But what would he do? And if there's anybody, I think, that at this point understands you ignore what the liberal press says. They're going to accuse you of everything. They don't say one word about the evil being done by the current administration. What is your sense of what is possible going forward?
Well, first of all, let me agree with you on there's a lot of Republicans I'm extremely disappointed in. They're not stepping up. For instance, Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced articles of impeachment in Mayorkas. I've been calling for this impeachment for 2 years. A lot of Republicans ran on that issue during the midterms. Where are they now? I mean, when she introduced the articles, 8 Republican congressmen voted against it. So you're exactly right. They're not stepping up and doing their job. So, so they upset me every day when the Republicans don't stick together and fight to secure the border. The second thing I would say is when President Trump gets reelected, which he will, and you're right, if he doesn't, and they get another 4 years, we're done. There's going to be too much damage. I don't think anybody can fix it at that point. So this is vital. So when President Trump gets back in office, the good thing that we can do is simply dust off the operational plans that we instituted under the Trump administration that worked. Were proven to work. And anybody doubts it, go to cbp.gov, www.cbp.gov. That's the Customs and Border Protection website. Look at the data for yourself. Illegal immigration, 45 years old. It worked. So we got to finish what we started, right? We got to finish the wall. We're going to put the Remain in Mexico program back in. We're going to put the third safe country agreements in, which is a game changer. Also, third safe country agreements was if you're really escaping fear and persecution from like El Salvador and you get to Mexico, have you not escaped your government's persecution? So you should be claiming asylum in Mexico. President Trump forced those countries to sign into that agreement. He forced Mexico to remain in Mexico. He said, look, I want military in the southern and northern border. You're going to participate and remain in Mexico. You're going to participate in the third safe country agreements. They said no. He said, you either do it or I'll tariff the hell out of you. And they did it. President Trump didn't take no for an answer. He did everything he could to secure our southern border because he realized this is a national security threat. So Joe Biden hasn't demanded anything from Mexico. Joe Biden hasn't demanded anything from China on the fentanyl crisis or taking action at Mexican criminal cartels. So President Trump will reinstitute the policies that were proven effective and let us finish the work that we started.